Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Wednesday, the 21st of February. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined this morning by Chris Jack. How are we doing, Chris?
Not too bad, not bad. Strange having a week with no midweek Rangers game. It's a bit of a rarity, but we're still plenty to talk about, plenty to write about, and also the build up is very much on to a really big game at Ibrox on Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. Cannot wait for that. Cannot wait, incidentally. I'm sure you're all the same, folks, about that last 16 Europa League draw on Friday as well. A number of clubs, of course, in the playoff round. That takes place on Thursday. Some interesting potential destinations for Rangers. So, yeah, we'll be keeping a close eye on that. I think it's 11 o'clock on Friday morning, if I'm not mistaken, the draw. Before we talk all things Rangers, a quick word for the MPH Group. If you're wanting some home improvements or even a new boiler, these are the guys to call. The all-important links are in the description below. Also in the description below is a great piece on the website this morning from Joshua. He's looked at Rangers' defence, and it's very interesting. Lots of stats and graphs in there. Rangers, of course, with 11 clean sheets in last 18 league games. It's a big reason why the club are now sitting proudly at the top of the Premiership table. Best defence in the country, Chris. You need a solid foundation if you're going to go on and win things. Philippe Clement has certainly brought a stability to that back line. It's not a defence now. I know they are at times conceding cheap goals. That's been something that's happened over the last good few years anyway. But you feel confident with this Rangers backline that they can more often than not keep teams out.
You do. There's a line in that piece from Josh this morning using a famous quote from Sir Alex of attacks win games, but defences win you titles. And I think that will really sum up if Rangers do go on and win the Premiership this season. The defence has also played a huge part in it. Not just the back four plus the goalkeeper, but I think since Clement has come in, it's been the structure of the side overall. It can be a bit cliche, a bit blasé at times to say, teams defend from the front, but that really is the case from Rangers, both with the ball and without the ball. There's a real structure about them now, and the difference between how the team looks and is set up and operates and performs and gets results is just night and day from what it was at the start of the season. I know some of the goals Rangers have conceded recently have been sloppy, to say the least.
Yeah.
But I think we'd rather have those ones that are almost outliers. If you look at the Clement era as a whole, losing goals like that, it's not the norm. They're not conceding that type of chance every game. They're not losing that type of goal every game. So I think as preventable as those ones are, as frustrating as those ones are when they do come around, I think you would rather have that than be conceding high quality chances game after game after game. So I think that there's real positives there in terms of that defensive record. It's strange because I think if you judge the mood music over the course of the season from a lot of the fans, you get the usual of Tav can't defend, Goldson's hopeless, Barisic, he's done, get him out the door. But these guys they're part of a defensive unit. Also, Ridvan coming in on the left hand side. Also, the centre halves have chopped and changed. But all these guys have played a part in a defensive record that is very, very impressive. So it might well be a case of the Rangers' rearguard being better than the sum of its parts at present.
Yeah, some interesting points come in with regards to that defence. This is an interesting one from a head keeper. He says that the defence is strong only because of Jack Butland. We are still weak at centre back. I wouldn't listen. I can understand a little bit what you mean there, buddy. But that's Rangers' defence, as I mentioned earlier on, still the best in the league, still good enough to go on and win the league title. Whether it's good enough in Europe as we go into the final stages, it remains to be seen. But I've got no qualms about it, especially those the centre-back pairing. I said yesterday, and I've said before, Chris, John Souttar has really come into his own in the last few weeks. I'm really been impressed with him. Connor Goldson, I know he's come in for a wee bit of criticism But Leon Balogun, of course, is an able deputy as well. We've seen a resurgence in Ridvan now that he's getting a consistent run of games. Even hearing him speak for the first time after that one at Easter Road was refreshing, and he certainly looks like he's enjoying himself at Rangers now. The right hand side, James Tavernier is James Tavernier. But this point on centre back, is that a valid one, do you think?
I think they could be better. I think it's an area of the side that the manager will probably look to address come the summer. But that's maybe just because of the profile of the guys that are there. Ben Davies has also not played that often under Clement. Had his fitness issues, and he looks like one of the guys come the summer you would take your feedback, reinvest the wages, and look to go and strengthen in that position. Leon King is down the pecking order. Wouldn't be at all surprised if he moves on. Balogun, he's one of the ones also up for debate in terms of the contract. But I think if you went into next season with Goldson and Suter as your starting centre halves, and you can then either add to it to bring in someone better or bring in someone just to provide a bit of competition there, I think that's a good solid foundation. And it's not just the numbers in Josh's piece back this up. It's not the fact that Jack Butland is having an absolute worldie of a season that's saving Rangers. He's been very, very impressive. He's by far and away the best goalkeeper in the league. For me, he's the player of the season in Scotland. That's one aspect of it, but it's the chances that Rangers are actually conceding. So it's not a case of the back four and the midfield aren't doing their jobs, and Butland is pulling off 4 or 5 great saves every single game to keep Rangers in it, and that's why the clean sheet record is as good. He's doing his part. He's making saves when teams get through, but teams aren't getting through that often because of the way the side is set up these days. They're more compact. I think you've seen a change in the way the fullbacks are being used to try and protect the centre halves. Certainly in terms of when the ball's turned over, Rangers are nowhere near as exposed to balls over the top. So it's not just a case of we've got a very good goalkeeper, which we have. Yes, there may well be flaws within the centre backs or within the full backs individually, but as a unit, they're more than doing the job that the manager has asked of them. He's clearly identified that as an area of improvement. He's not had a lot of time to work on it. Now we've seen the schedule. We know how few sessions he has actually had on the grass with them, but the work he has been able to do, it's certainly paying off. And if you look at the number of clean sheets, 2, the number of goals conceded overall, it speaks volumes for the way that the side has been set up.
Lots of points coming in. Thomas says the entire team is starving opposition of chances. Yeah, that's what's really impressive for me. You feel comfortable with this Rangers side that they're not allowing the opposition real clear-cut opportunities in the main. That being said, just on the centre-backs, Denzel the point says, agree that Suter has improved, but I still think Goldson and Balogun are our best centre-back pairing. Big Leon as a calming influence at the back. Just ahead of Saturday, Chris, there was a comment, I can't remember when it was, what show it was, posing the question, do you keep the Goldson-Suter partnership against Hearts, or do you bring Balogun back in? Of course, he's got that mask on, Danilo style, but I think he will come in at some point. Is Saturday the prime opportunity, or does he come in for Rugby Park, perhaps?
It's a really interesting one now, because like you, Derek, I think Suter has been impressive in the last few weeks. You would say he's come in, he's taken his chance on form. Does he deserve to be dropped? Probably not. But I think it probably feeds into the way the manager has managed the entire squad over this run. There's very, very few guys that you can say they're nailed on to start every single week. But a lot of rotation, and people say, oh, he's dropped someone. It's not a case of being dropped. No. It's a case of managing match minutes for likes of Jack and Tom Lawrence, for example. They had been managed. McCausland not starting it at the weekend. It was just being managed through a really, really hectic schedule. Other times it's horses for courses almost. So like playing Dujon Sterling at St Mirren, for example, it was because he would get something better than other options, bringing him on at half time at the weekend, because he knew how he could impact the game in a way that Scott Wright wasn't. So if Suter doesn't make the team on Saturday, I don't think you should take it as a huge slap in the face, a huge negative. Oh, he's been dropped. He's not been in good form. He has been in good form. I think if he doesn't start, it'll be because the manager feels Balogun and Goldson are better equipped to deal with the Hearts forward line. And we've spoken enough about the man that's leading that particular forward line. I think if you look at the goals that Shankland has scored this season, the one that he got at Ibrox earlier on in the season, I wouldn't be surprised if Balogun comes back in to perhaps nullify the Shankland threat a bit more. But if he does, I say John should have to take it as no negative on the way that he's been performing. It's just a case of the manager has options, and he's been very, very smart at how he's using the different options for different occasions.
Yes, rotation, he's touched on it in many press conferences. It's all about keeping players fresh and managing minutes to make sure they're at their peak level. Let's get to a few of the points. First of all, Nevitt says, this is cheeky, you and your PJs, Derek. No, I'm not having that, buddy. That is a caution for you. No more of that. Thank you very much. And Peggy says, where are you today, Derek? I'm actually in a Premier Inn in deepest, darkest Cambridge. That is where I am today, Peggy. So, the Rangers review on tour, if you like. Alan Perry, just on the centre-back pairing, he says, how about dropping Goldson and playing Balogun? We have seen that a Balogun-Suter partnership before. Easter Road, of course, when Goldson was suspended. But I know the manager has said that no player is guaranteed a start in his team. They have to be producing week in, week out, and also in training, Chris. But Goldson, he's pretty much been a first-team regular ever since he joined the club from Brighton, of course. I think he's one of those players, I know he comes in for criticism, but I think you do miss him when he's not in the team.
He's one of these guys. I know I just mentioned the fact that the manager does a bit of rotation, but he is one of the guys who you can almost hang your hat on playing. I've got a piece on the website coming tomorrow looking at John Lundstrom and his influence and his impact under the manager. And it's interesting, if you look at the minutes played over the course of the season, Butland obviously leads the way because he's been ever present, but it's Tav, Goldson and Lundstrom. They're the four mainstays of this squad, and almost for every game between now and the end of the season, if you can put that four on the pitch, the rest of the side then almost slots in round about it. These are the guys that the manager has put a lot of faith in. He knows that they're robust enough. He knows that they can churn out your midweeks, your weekends, and I think having stalwarts like that in the squad has been really important. The type of guy, he's not going to take kindly to being rested. It doesn't like it. It's been mentioned before, and I think Natav falls into that category. Lundstrom falls into that category. These guys want to play. They want to take that responsibility on their shoulders. They want to be front and centre. They're not going to say, well, by the way, boss, I'll just sit this one out. And I think they can't do that now because they know there is the competition within the squad. So I'd be surprised if it's anyone but Goldson in that spot. I said the debate then comes on: is it Balogun or is it John Suter that partners him? And I think that's going to be the case between now and the end of the season. If Rangers are going to continue on this defensive run, if they're going to continue on this winning run, those four guys are going to be really, really important over the next few weeks.
Yeah, this is an interesting point from Mackay. Says, morning guys, interesting reply from PC when asked about Tav's goal scoring stats. He said, crazy, but first of all, he's a defender, and to be fair, he's improved there. Yeah, this was after the win against St Johnstone on Sunday. Phenomenal goal scoring record from James Tavernier. That is it, no doubt about it. He's going to be, I know there was he's nearing Graham Alexander's total. I think he hit 130 goals in all. There should be an asterisk, incidentally, against his total because he played a lot of games in defensive midfield for Scunthorpe at the beginning of his career and at various other clubs. So for me, Tavernier, he will surpass Graham Alexander, incidentally, and which is quite an incredible feat. He did speak after that game. He said he's had something like 8 or 9 goals prior to joining Rangers, and he's just turned into some sort of goal-scoring machine. But this point about improving defensively, I think it's a valid one here, Chris. I thought it was interesting. Clement did say he's a defender first and foremost, and he is part of the reason why Rangers are racking up the clean sheets.
Mm-hmm. I think the line of Tav can't defend, it was an opinion that was formed in the early days of his Rangers career when, one, he was still getting used to life at Ibrox. Two, yes, he was making mistakes. We've seen him caught out at the back post. We've seen him caught out with players get drifting off him at times. But he's been here for a long time now, and opinions in football are allowed to change. Just because you formed an opinion of a guy 7-8 years ago, it doesn't mean to say you have to still be sticking with it. Tav has improved defensively. Show that the Rangers numbers this season show that. I thought that the point that probably sums up what Mackie was saying there, Tav's into Malanga went into how his role has changed slightly. He said under previous manager it was high and wide. No matter if the ball's on the right side or the left side, you wanted the fullbacks high and wide because there was no natural width in the forward line, because that's how Beale built the squad and built the side. Any width was coming from the fullbacks. Tav also played a huge part in that. Under Clement, we've seen him not play high and wide as often. You often see him end up in the middle of the pitch at times. One, I think he utilises his skills in there because he's also very, very good on the ball. He's good in those tight spaces. But as I said earlier on, it protects against the transitions. Rangers are not being counter-attacked against as easily by balls down the side, balls over the top, because everyone is in a better position to protect against that. And I thought if anybody's not read that piece with Tav, go and check it out, because it really explains how his game has had to evolve under different managers. And when you see what he says about how his role has changed, it feeds into the impact that Clement has made in terms of the overall defensive structure.
Yeah. James gets in touch. He says, morning everyone, it's my birthday. Good to be top of the league. Happy birthday, James. Good to have you tuning in on this Wednesday morning. Hopefully you have a cracking day, buddy. And yeah, it certainly helps when Rangers are top of the pile. An interesting point from Lewis as well. As I touched on at the top of the show, we will be intrigued to find out who we could potentially face in the Europa League on Friday. He says, do you think the Europa last 16 could affect our league form? It's a good question. Of course, Celtic don't have European football to look forward to. They've had a disastrous Champions League campaign, so they can fully focus on the league and the Scottish Cup. Rangers, though, as Philip Clement says, the only club in Scotland fighting on three fronts at this moment in time. It will be testing for the squad. He said it himself when he had to make those three alterations to his European squad. He was frustrated he couldn't include the likes of Oscar Cortez and Leon Balogun in there, but they will be fresh for domestic action. Is this a slight concern for you, Chris, when we get back underway? I believe the first leg will be the 6th or 7th of March. I'm not too sure if that's the case. And then the next leg at Ibrox the week after. Is this a concern?
Not a huge one, but I think recent history showed that it's not easy to win league titles or to challenge for league titles and put together long European runs. So it's obviously a situation that Rangers have to deal with. As you say, Celtic don't. Their full focus is on the Premiership title race, and also still going to the Scottish Cup as well. So it's something I think the manager will have to be mindful of. I think during the first phase, if you like, of his tenure, I don't think we saw a massive difference or a massive impact between having to play the European games and then getting to the domestic games. It didn't really have that big a say. When you go forward and legs get a bit more tired, there's more miles on the clock. The level of opposition in Europe obviously goes up again. It could be tricky for Rangers. It will require the manager to be even more switched on in terms of that squad management. There's also certain players that he can't play as he outlined there in terms of European games. We will see more rotation. We will see guys being rested a bit more, just to try and manage the squad through it. As much as well, and I love the European nights, and also the run to Seville was brilliant. It's all about the league title for Rangers this season. If they were to get a really big draw in the last 16, fans going on a great trip, big night at Ibrox, and ultimately we fall short and we bow out of the Europa League, and it's then full focus on the Premiership. I wouldn't be that sad about it, and I'm sure as much as the manager and the players won't say it, I doubt they would be that sad about it either, because we know how important the Premiership is. But while you're in the competition, they'll want to go full throttle at it. The manager says he wants to win every game, he wants to win every competition. Europe is something that we can dream of, but for me, the Premiership is a top priority. So I think it all depends on the draw. If you get someone that the fans think, we've got a real chance, we should go and beat them, and you then go out of the competition to them, it maybe puts a bit of a downer on things, and people are a bit, that wasn't as good as we hoped for. If you draw one of the bigger sides and it's a real glamour tie, and you put in a good performance and then go out, you can say, well, hands up, they'll beat the better side there. So I think all depends on the draw, and all depends on how the matches go. But I wouldn't be booking Dublin just yet. But who knows? No, this Rangers side have been a remarkable turnaround. Nobody thought we would get to Seville. Nobody thought we'd get to Manchester, and those runs obviously ended in a bad way. If we somehow get to Dublin and it ends in a great way, then we'll certainly take it.
Yeah, I will be sad, incidentally, if Rangers do go out. I am dreaming of said party in Dublin. So, take us on a journey, Philippe. The run to Seville is one that we will all remember for the rest of our days. Ditto Manchester. But yeah, Seville, I think there's unfinished business there for Rangers. So hopefully we can have another magical run in Europe. Tom with the point, he says, Derek Christie, we already know who's been added to the Euro squad. Yes. So the changes were he brought in Ridvan, Fabio Silva and Mohamed Diamande. Is that right, Chris, off the top of my head?
I think so. I can't remember. It was a few weeks ago, but I think you are right.
Yeah, let us know in the comments, folks, if we've got that right or not. And Ross Nielsen, I thought this was an interesting point. Again, rotation key is absolutely vital at this point in time. Philip Clement said it himself. He's not going to play the same team between now and the end of the season. He says, if everyone's fit and available, what is our strongest 11? I'll have a bash. It's hard because different games require different personnel, Chris. If we're playing tomorrow, for example, against Celtic, and everyone is fit. Danilo Kimaruf make a remarkable recovery. Abdallah Sima is back available as well. I'd go Butland, Tavernier, Goldson, Suter, Ridvan, Lundstrom. I would go... This is a tough one. Sterling or Diamande. I'd go Diamande, and then ahead of them, Cantwell. Who do we go with? Sima. On the right, I would go McCausland, and up front, here we go. I'll go Fabio Silva. Does yours differ from that?
I think this it feeds into what we were saying earlier on. I don't think there is actually a strongest 11 right now. I think there's certain guys like the four that I mentioned earlier on. There's players that are all but nailed on. If they're fit, they play. Round about that, I think it becomes very, very tricky, and it is just a case of, are you playing Celtic at Ibrox or are you playing St Johnstone away? Because they could be two very different sides. The Celtic at Ibrox would be arguably different to Celtic at Parkhead. You've also got Hearts at Ibrox this weekend. That's different to going to Killie in midweek, for example. I know you had to think a wee bit there about the midfield. If it was Parkhead, Sterling probably plays alongside Lundstrom. Yep. If it's Hearts at Ibrox, you probably put in Diamande. Up front, it's a toss-up right now between Silva and Dessers in terms of who the manager goes for. Personally, I would go for Silva. I think he's a better option. I think he's a better player. On the wings, if Seamer's back, he plays. Cortez has been really impressive, but McCausland doesn't deserve to be dropped. So I think it is just this mix and match. It's very much situation dependent, and I think that's one of the strengths of the Clement range so far. It's not just I've got 11 good players, I'm going to go and play them and run them into the ground. It's very clever how he's managing the squad. He knows that he can get the matches and the minutes out of Butland, Tav, Goldson, and Lundstrom. These guys nailed on. Round about that, it is very much horses for courses. It's very much. This is the situation. This is the game. This is opposition, and also this is what's coming in midweek. So if I can rest Ross McCausland for one, but I can play him in midweek, then we'll do that. And I think that also the benefit or the advantage of having fuller squad is now being seen, because there was times earlier on, mid-December or so, he just didn't have those options. It was, we're playing the midfield that's fit and it's got a pair of boots. Now it's, well, how many different varieties do you go in there? Tom Lawrence has been excellent, for example. Does he deserve to miss out to Diomande? So I think there's a number of options in there, and if anybody was to say this is the best 11, it might be the best 11 for this particular game. Doesn't mean to say it's the same 11 that's going to start the following week or the following Wednesday or to start in the Europa League game.
That midfield is so much stronger now than what it was at the start of the season. It really is really encouraged by what we've been seeing in that midfield area. We'll finish up. There's a story you may have seen in the Daily Record. Genk chief Peter Croonen has urged Rangers not to make the same mistake, and he says that he regrets losing the Belgian coach in 2019. He says that the longer Rangers can keep Philippe, the better for them. He has proven that he can repeat success over several seasons. The only thing that I regret about appointing him at Genk was that he left us after that first title. We asked him to stay, but he decided to leave. Seen a number of supporters saying worried that when the time comes, Big Phil decides to move on. Chris, I think it's only natural if he does achieve the remarkable this season and brings more silverware to Rangers. There will be clubs interested in prizing him away. And he will move on. I think that means that he's had a successful time at Rangers. Managers either get sacked or they move on to another club. The way things are going, he'll move on to another club at some point. I hope it's not for a long time yet. Is this maybe a legitimate worry for supporters if he goes on and wins a domestic double or a treble or what have you, that he could move on in the summer?
Can you ask me again in May once the shiny things are in the trophy room and everybody's had their picture taken with them, then we can maybe start worrying about it. I understand why the fans are talking about it, because we can all deal in hypotheticals. We can all look forward and say, well, if this happens, then that might happen. Right now, he's won one trophy. He's qualified in Europe and he's transformed Rangers from title no-hopers into potential champions. That doesn't get him a big move, and it certainly wouldn't be his focus. I'm sure it's nothing that he's even thinking about. So if there's three bits of silverware in the cabinet, I dare say the first Premier League job that comes up, it will be spoken about. But there's a lot of football to be played, a lot of prizes to be won before we even have to think about that and have to worry about it. It's interesting that piece you mentioned, because one of the main reasons why Clement got the job was that sustained success in Belgium. He didn't get it just because he won one league title. It was the fact that he was able to win the first and then move club and then win another one and then follow it up again. He has this track record a real track record of success. It's shown that he can build one inside, but he then knows how to go again and build another one. He can move club and build and go again. So I think that was one of the key aspects for the Rangers board when it came down to it. It was also between him and Kevin Muscat at the time. That was one of the main things that kind of swayed it in Clement's favour. He has this track record. He knows how to build sustained success, because ultimately, as much as this title means so much to Rangers, we all want 56 to arrive over the next couple of months. It's not enough to be one and done. That's not the Rangers way. We made that mistake before. After 55 season, there's whatever mistakes were made then. Rangers then didn't kick on. It's cost us for the following seasons after that. So that's not a mistake that Rangers can make again. And I think with the manager now, if he was to win the league this season, he's not going to be a case of, well, I've done my job, give me a paycheck and I'll head off down the road. But there's a lot of football to be played. So ask me that question again once. If we're sitting here celebrating at the end of the season, and Clement has delivered what we think he potentially can and what we hope he does, then we can maybe have that conversation. It might be a bit more focused in people's minds, but not something we have to concern ourselves about right now.
Yeah, Brian C says, I would like to go for a pint with Big Phil. I'm sure we'd all like to go for a pint. He seems like a cracking guy, certainly. And keep up the good work, yeah, Big Phil. I know you tune in religiously on a morning listening to and watching the Rangers review. But we'll wrap up there, folks. Thanks to everyone for interacting with the show, as ever. It's much appreciated. Just a heads up, I spoke to Chief Sports Writer at the Northern Echo this morning, Scott Wilson, for an in-depth insight into Michael Beale's tenure at Sunderland. Of course, ended after just 12 games yesterday. Quite a bizarre 48, 72 hours down there in the northeast, involving the former Rangers manager. So do go and check it out. It's on the YouTube members channel. If you've not joined, just click the join button on the homepage, and then you can sign up. You get an extra 3 to 5 videos per week. So yeah, that's certainly one to check out. We'll be back again tomorrow, but until then, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Bye for now.